I'm Shanna, a third-year medical student at UBC, and I do a bunch of different interviews with other medical students and answer a lot of questions on the pre-med journey. Kayoung is starting her first year medical school at UBC this fall.
I did my research in the environmental science area, and I know that a lot of pre-med students think that they have to do research in like medicine-related field. And when I tell people that I did research in environmental science, they're like, oh, why did you choose that if you want to be a doctor? And like exclusive, but you can find connections. And I think pursuing what really speaks to you and what you really enjoy and you're passionate about is important, because you can always make the connection with medicine and health. And I think it's an experience that would broaden your horizon, and you would just get so much out of your given experience and your given circumstances. So,
I also some more basic non-medical research. And I think number one research is so hard to find. So for at any point, if you can't get your hands on medical research, any type of research is really good. I would definitely say. So don't limit yourself as an undergrad. And number two, I think as an undergrad, again, you don't have a lot of medical knowledge, and really, especially if it's your very first research experience, it's just really good to go in and just learn the skills. So whether or not that's environment, whether or not that's psychology research, you just want to get in there. How do you write? How do you present? How do you collect data?
Exactly. Involved with environmental research was actually pretty serendipitous. I was in my first year and I was really eager to start doing research. Went up to my first year biology professor asking if there's any like research assistant opportunities, and she told me that there might be like a volunteer position for an environmental conservation research. So I was like, oh, sign me up. I want the experience anyway. Dealt with our school's environmental conservation research, and I thought it would be like a temporary thing because I was so sure as a pre-med, and I thought I would eventually do something medicine related, but I actually ended up and doing it as my honors research.
Help everybody else out for a couple of years. I think not to say no one's capable of going in right away, but I think it would be overwhelming to go in right away and be like, here, write your own project, design all of it. Like if you went straight to an honors thesis, I think that would be kind of overwhelming. So I think it's nice to get a feel as you were with helping other people's projects, which also gives you like a sampler of like what kind of topics you might potentially be interested in.
For sure.
And I like your idea of trying out whether or not, because like an honors thesis is a big commitment. So I like that your idea of trying it out with the directed studies and then going in with because I think the supervisor-student fit is like a really important thing. I was lucky that my first supervisor and I just happened to click, but I think because it's like a personality thing and there's different working styles, that it's important to be like, number one, don't be discouraged if it's hard to find a supervisor first, and then when you get in and the fit isn't quite right and the team isn't quite right, it's, I think, okay to switch. And I'm going to guess that probably your supervisor from your first experience probably is still a mentor that is carried forward. So it's not like once you leave their lab, they're not your mentor anymore. Any parting practical tips for doing well in your research? Or
familiarize with the referencing system earlier on is super helpful. I use Zotero, but I know other softwares. On top of the journal articles that you read, like being organized, because you're going to be reading so much for your literature review, and you have to cite them when you write your introduction and other sections too. And if you get the authors or their research mixed up, it's not a fun time.
I get some pre-meds that are like, hey, like, how do I make sure I get a publication or a presentation? I'm like, to give one tip is like the presentation things is just to find small ways to present. So looking for opportunities, say UBC, if you want to apply to Merck, which is like the undergrad research experience. And then so you can also apply to the big conferences, which I definitely encourage. I think those are amazing experiences to get inspired by all the people doing cool work out there. But not putting all your eggs in that basket or putting all your eggs in just publications. I think most of the academia really care that you're just showing that you're doing something and you're being productive more so than the count of the publications. So if you don't have any publications, but you show that you were keeping productive with some presentations or you were just engaging your research in different ways, I think it's still amazing.
I was fortunate enough to get my honors research published. And basically, I just finished my honors thesis, and I asked my supervisors, hey, do you think this can get published? And they were like, we can try. So I turned my honors thesis into a manuscript over like a 2-month period, and then we submitted for publication. And so I think the first step could be just asking the supervisor whether it has the potential to get published, or how. Yeah, and in terms of presentations, it's not just about the record of presentation, where you did it and how many times, but it's also helpful for your own personal skills, like your communication and presentation skills later on.
Like your point of, it took you 2 months from changing it to thesis to publication, and you spent, I want to say, did you spend an entire year working on that project?
I did.
So I think that's one thing to realize, like, research is actually a lot slower than people think. Even when you're working at your fastest, it's a pretty slow process. So
yeah.
I would say for most people, say you're an undergrad and you're doing your summer research for 4 months, you can definitely get a publication from that, like definitely possible, but you probably won't get a publication by the end of the 4 months. It'll probably be a publication that will take place maybe a year or maybe even 2 years later. A year if things go well, but that is just something to know. And I think it's not a failing on anyone's part. It's just the way the process is. It's slow. But I think that's okay to be transparent about the fact that you're, say, maybe you want to go med school like us, or if you're applying to grad school, that you're like, hey, I'm really interested in applying to this. And so if maybe you're honest about the fact that you are interested in finding some opportunities to present or publish sooner, they can assign some smaller projects to you. I probably wouldn't go straight in and be like, I'm here to get publications. I'm uncomfortable because if I were this, like, is that all you're here for? Go in and just try to focus on learning the skills. I agree with what you said first before trying to get a publication. And then I think what you did was the perfect timing, where you worked hard first and then you said, like, what can I do with this now? I think show your worth and then ask for the rewards instead of doing it the other way around.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, you can also be strategic about the projects that you want. So I think when you first do research, you can probably, I think I would probably just do one at a time, but maybe when you get to the medical school stage or late in your undergrad, where maybe when you got to your honors part where you were already quite experienced doing a few, then I could think you could do two. You could do one that's maybe like a smaller, more doable project that's finishable within a year, can get you a publication. Maybe that's just like a micro project. And then also on the side, get yourself involved in something that's long. So I think that's actually the benefit of the research you did in environmental sciences. It's a more like realistic and doable. For example, a lot of the medical studies, they'll take years because it takes years and years to recruit all the patients, because it takes a lot of time and scheduling. So there is a downside to medical research at times because it takes so long and stuff. So you could also, involve yourself in something that's like your own little project, and then on the side run the one of the many people involved in some big high impact thing. It just kind of depends on what kind of research you're interested in.
I have seen some people do research and their research wouldn't get published right away, but that would become incorporated into a bigger research, and that would get published later on, and the student's name would still be on it. So I don't think it's like always like you do research, you get published, maybe not, but it can be like you do research, there's the gap, where other people do research and things get combined and then it gets published.
For reading some form and stuff, I think people are always like, you must get first author. I think it's actually okay to be more open to being and helping out someone else and let someone else be that first author. I think the general rule for that is, say, if you're joining like environmental lab or psych lab, that sometimes the grad students or the fellow that you're working with will probably be a lot faster at writing or something like that. So if you wanted to help out, or maybe they're just so busy with whatever they're doing that having you to help collect the data, run the plates and that kind of thing, you can be like a not a first author but still an important author on the paper, and let them take care of the creative design and stuff. I think that's also an option. Again, I would probably just, if you have the time, to do a bit of both. And that would diversify. If that was really important to someone as a publication, that's something I would say, like, is to join someone else maybe. But if I were a pre-med and you might have a medical student that's working on something, definitely would be happy to have someone like that, right? And they can do part of it. And if you're working with someone who's nice, I'm on the stance that I think you should offer authorship to as many people that contribute as possible within limit if they're doing a reasonable amount of work. But or maybe a grad student that definitely finding those different ways to see if you can join someone's project. And so I think there's like pros and cons, like to helping join someone's project and taking your own. I think there's a sense of fulfillment that I'm sure you have honors thesis that is like your baby, that you take it from and create it. So I think a bit of both. So yeah, it's a hard question to ask, like, as you also had when people ask you. It's like, it's not that we're hiding any information about how to get or how to get a presentation. It's just that there isn't.
We don't have an answer.
Yeah, it's just like I honestly feel like I just got really lucky, and I wasn't expecting that going into it. So
say that like luck is a combination of preparation and opportunity. That's not the exact wording, but that's like how I took from it. So if you have had the opportunity to help out, then maybe in the future you would be offered an opportunity to get published as a first author. So it's just a matter of you taking the opportunity and learning as much as you can, and being prepared for when the opportunity would present itself in the future.
And if I have someone work with me, I find that the more work and the faster they get it done for me, the more I want to give them. So if you're feeling like you're not getting enough contributions, if you pull back, actually, then the person you're working with, that grad student or the med student, will probably give you even less, and it just kind of, and then so if you pull back, actually it does you worse if you're pulling back just because you're not feeling like you're getting a publication out of it. It's not interesting to you. But definitely I think showing your worth, working super hard is the way to go. The rest of this playlist or this series, make sure you check out Kayoung's channel. She has some other tips on writing the MCAT. She has tips on studying, and she also just has other like vlogs and stuff. So you guys should totally check her out. We're hopefully trying to reconnect when August rolls around, so you guys should stay tuned for that. If you want us to hear other people's experiences in med school and other tips, again, stay subscribed so y'all get more chances to learn stuff. So thanks y'all for watching.